Hi, everyone, and welcome to our August webinar where we're going to be going over PKI in transition, end of life, strong mapping, and what comes next. So this is being recorded so then we can share out. With that, I'm going to introduce myself and the real reason you guys are all here, my colleague Jake. So I am the director of operations over here at PKI Solutions. And so I handle a lot of behind the scenes items. Some of you guys might have seen me in projects and we might have hung out. But the real star of the show here is Jake. And so I'm going to pass it on over to him.
Thank you, Alex. Uh, Everyone, just before we get started, I just have to say I convinced Alex to do this. She is the one that drives it all, so that's why she's here today. Um, I'm super happy to have her here doing it. She wasn't that thrilled, but she's here now, and I think she's going to end up enjoying it a lot. So, um, everyone, uh, I've probably talked to you a lot in the past, everyone, and different whether we've worked together, maybe you've seen some of the blogs out there or any of the um, other webinars that we've done in the past. So this is a good time to be in the space. I'm excited about all the things we got to talk about today, so we'll keep it moving, um, so we have a chance to get to the good stuff at the end. So
Perfect. And with that, we'll go. And our agenda today is really going over these three main items: the Microsoft Server 2016 end of life, strong certificate mapping enforcement, some ADCS updates, and then preparing your organization and really what do all these mean together. So the last section here is one that PKI Solutions has really done, peppered in throughout our last few years, and it's a Q&A session. And so I encourage you all to put your questions in the Q&A part on the chat. It's right to the right of the chat button. And then you can upvote questions. And really, this is going to show how just amazing Jake is regarding his experience with PKI, familiarity, and just competency. It's an ask him anything situation. We'll be taking the questions that have the most votes. Now, remember, he isn't going to give any great answers if they're so specific to your environment, as we won't have that. So keep the topics a bit more broad and try and stump Jake. I'm excited to see what comes out of this. All right. And off to
thank you,
Jake.
thank you, Alex. Um, so the first big topic that we wanted to touch on today was with the Server 2016 end of life. So it seems like in my career that's spanned a whole way too long, but um, clients and we all seem to set on certain OSs, and then there's like kind of the in between. So 2012 R2 was a really popular build for a lot of PKIs. When we moved off of that, we moved to 2016, and that's where we are now. So um, the basically PKI in general, what I'm seeing out there with our clients is uh, a lot of people still running on Server 2016 and not seeing a whole lot of impetus to move. And with that coming to an end, um, I hope people are kind of paying attention to that because we'll touch on some other things of why 2016 is, um, not just end of life for Microsoft, but some of the things that aren't going backwards into 2016 when it comes to some of the things we'll touch on about um, certificate mapping and whatnot. But so as 2016 does get older, um, eventually we will get to a point where the support for Microsoft either dwindles or becomes very, very expensive. So, unlike in the past where we had done migrations from 2008 R2 to 2012 R2, a lot of people that might have been when we did a hashing like a SHA-1 to a SHA-2 as well. This time it is fairly straightforward. We don't have all those um, risks, but we do want to make sure that you're leaving yourself enough time to get it done, um, and that when that migration does start to take place, that you kind of know what you need to accomplish before you get into it, and so you don't end up with um, you know bad things happening to your existing PKI. So um, the, start looking at it now ahead of time. make sure that if you're going to do the move, uh, you know where you should go and all the different things you need to touch on when that time comes.
Wonderful. All right. Next, kind of big topic we had here, Jake, strong certificate mapping enforcement.
Yeah, and so this is one that we had sent out a lot of communication to all of our clients and even some organizations we aren't working with currently, but had in the past. Uh, Last February, Microsoft announced that they were setting an actual schedule for strong certificate mapping, and that is essentially Microsoft's attempt to try to prevent or limit credential escalation by sliding someone else's name in the sand of a certificate that had client authentication and allowed the user to provide the subject of that certificate. So uh, the date is approaching sooner than later. September 9, I believe, is the second Tuesday, which will be Patch Tuesday in September. And that's the patch that's going to remove the ability on our domain controllers currently to disable strong authentication. So um, when those patches are applied, it's going to be um, if there are still issues with certificates that have not been strongly mapped, they will fail. And what we've been running in since February is kind of an interim period where it would just report, but let people and identities continue to authenticate. So the um, the biggest thing to remember is that September 9th, and then also the place to find out 100% for sure if you are experiencing these or will experience this problem is in the event logs of your domain controller. So on your domain controller, under the system event log, you will see events 39, 40, or 41. And it varies a little bit there based on the OS that's doing it, but those are what you'll see. And it will list the certificate that's having problems, that's failing. If you're currently running in a compatibility mode, it will list that so you know which ones you might need to address and reissue. And in the, I believe we've attached to the document, or I'm sorry, to the webinar today, um, our blog to it, which also has links to Microsoft as well. Um, the risk here is if we're still experiencing those problems, we could see logon failures. The most at risk for this are going to be smart cards. From what we've seen, a lot of other use cases haven't come to fruition as much. But if you're using smart cards and they've been out there a while, those are the ones we really need to, you know, make sure that that strong mapping is done and you're not seeing those errors in the event logs of your domain controller, or after you patch Tuesday in September, um, log on is going to fail.
Oh, ah, the operations part of me is like, ooh, sounds like a lot of work.
Yes.
Our, and then we have our ADCS updates here.
Right. So I mentioned it at the top of the webinar of all the different things, and I've actually said this out loud, and people look at me funny. This is an exciting time to be in PKI, if there is such a thing. Um, all of us on this call likely get that. Alex, she also gets it, but she humors me. But it really is an exciting time in this space, in that we have a lot of changes going on. Um, for quite a while, Microsoft wasn't giving ADCS much love, and now they're kind of back giving the uh, um, uh, the team basically resources, and they're now announcing changes that will be coming. So one of the biggest they'd already announced was around um, CRL partitioning, and I won't go way deep into it, but uh, essentially allowing us to split up our CRLs if they're large, to make it a lot easier for an environment if you're doing a lot of revocation. So um, that's something they announced a while back and then hadn't shown us much. But um, I was talking to someone this morning, and look for that in September. So it will be coming with September updates. And so we will start seeing that. Pieces of it you'll already see out there, but it wasn't actually fully supported. So that's coming with September updates as well, I was told. Um, Still nothing around the post quantum. Nothing official yet for Microsoft. Uh, but there are changes. There's a lot of additional changes that are happening out there. So uh, on the ADCS front, um, it's a good time. Microsoft's giving it some love, which is good. Also, just real quick here, there's a lot of things that we depend on with our PKIs and with ADCS around HSMs and things like that, which are also coming up on end of life. That probably the two biggest players, Thales Luna HSMs and Intrust and Cypher HSMs, both have new models out. They've issued the official stop sale for the older models. uh, this is fresh just this morning. All along they had said they would not do anything with the current HSM models to support any type of testing or anything with post quantum. I just saw something this morning from Intrust saying they may make it like an activation type license. So that was net new this morning for me. Just learned that. So there's a lot of things going on right now in our space that we need to be watching out for and doing. Um, and then we're also real quick. The other thing that has popped up a lot recently that we need to be aware of is around the cab forum and some of the rules they're making, and doesn't necessarily affect ADCS at all, but absolutely affects um, our PKI teams that are also managing our externally issued certificates. So a lot of things happening. We're trying to get out as many blogs and everything as we can, keep everyone up to date. So um, it's a good time to be in a space, but it's also a busy time.
Jake, before we move to our next topic, when was the last most exciting time to be in the PKI space?
I'd say when we were doing the migrations to 2012 R2, do you remember how
Yeah.
you forced me to work basically around the clock on all the projects? I mean, that was exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say here also, Alex is nice enough to also help fund some of my Red Bull addiction. So it on some level it's a two-way street. So
Yeah, yeah, it's killing Jake as I get the most out of Jake at the same time. It's a balance that we have to take over here.
yeah.
Um, with that, we'll move on to preparing your organization.
So based on everything that we had just said, we want to make sure that the organization and our PKI is ready um, for all of these changes that are coming. Whether it is probably the most pressing thing right now is the strong certificate mapping, making sure that we're in a good place for that, since that technically is September 9 if patches are applied. Um, and then after that, there's just a whole host of things. We have the 2016 end of life, so we need to be looking at um, a migration. One of the things I haven't touched on here, we'll touch on later in the webinar, is we're also in that period where we're getting ready to do a migration off of our 2016 servers, and not all clients have a gold image or something they're ready to roll out for server 2025. And my take has always been go as far as you can go to future proof. I've deployed, I did migrations to 2025. Um, Works great. So if you have it available, it's a way to move yourself one OS further down the road that will go end of life later. Um, but just planning those migrations that need to take place. If you have HSMs, be aware of the dates for those, of when um, we need to make sure that we are looking at least at budgeting for probably for new hardware. I think in 27 is when support will run out, standard support for most of the HSMs, um, which tend to be a bigger expense as well. So a lot of things that we need to do, and um, a lot of our clients don't have uh, test environments. A lot of times it's hard to have all the resources to have a true test environment that would support all of the applications in the uh, normal enterprise. So uh, being able to test these things and do these things sometimes is a little bit daunting. Um, that's why we're always out here to help, obviously, and help clients with their migrations. But um, looking at the PKI and how important it's gotten to all of us and the industry as a whole, um, making sure that it stays up, that we are providing the best security we can. We are a huge target. We have a huge sign on our environments right now for bad actors. Um, Making sure everything is secure as it can be, functional for the enterprise, and we have a plan to keep it that way as we move forward.
Wonderful. All right. And thank you, Jake, so much for going over those topics. I know, as you said, it's been a real big time in the PKI industry, and just getting a little bit more information that makes us all feel better about what's coming down. However, I'm going to move us on to everyone's favorite part of these webinars, the Ask Me Anything or the Stump Jake part of this. And so with this, I've been looking at your guys' QA. We got some good stuff. I'm going to start with the one that has the most, and it looks like it's by a gentleman here. If events 39, 40, or 41 are not being triggered on the DCs, do I
Mhm.
still have a reason to be concerned about strong certificate mapping?
That's a great question. I've talked about that quite a bit recently to my clients. If we're not seeing those events, uh, we are not at risk right now during or when that next update comes out from Microsoft. What we have seen was initially, Alex knows this because when I reached out to her in February, I was like, "Hey, I got to go out with this to everybody." I thought it was going to be really, really bad. Uh, Come to find out, um, it hasn't been so bad because all of I saw someone in the chat earlier say something about Wi-Fi, and at the end of the day, most of the certificates we're using for remote access or like VPN type or for Wi-Fi, we're not actually doing authentication with them. There's something in that certificate we're looking at, so it's not doing an authentication and won't it won't throw those errors, and it's not going to fail for strong authentication. Now, um, the security nerd side of me also says the reason we're doing this is to prevent credential escalation and someone being able to slide in uh, a different ID than we want coming from that user. So, like Alex wants to request a certificate that I have not done my template correctly, and she's going to put Jake in the SAN, and then she's going to log on as Jake and and I guess write a bunch of blogs and do stuff like that. But um,
Sounds like something I would do.
it does. So the answer to the question is no, that's not as critical. If you're not seeing them, you're not going to experience that. But on the other side, it's good to do it because you just never know when some of those vendors might, change something or kind of follow along with what Microsoft is trying to do.
Okay. Our next question here, any particular event IDs and or query that would identify DCs denying access due to failed strong mapping? Then just some background. In our testing, we see event ID 4768 with result code 0 times 42 when smart card logon fails due to lack of mapping. Just
Mhm.
wondering if you all are tracking any others, or would that be the only one to watch?
Those are going to be the big ones, kind of like I mentioned. I think um, the very nature of how we issue smart cards, which many times it's a role on behalf. Someone is acting as an RA to issue that certificate. So anyone does not dealt with that as much. So uh, if I was like my normal self, and Alex is decided that she's going to give me a smart card, she would enroll on my behalf for that certificate. Depending on how that template is configured, it likely would not automatically be strongly mapped. So, which basically means my SID is not going to be in that OID in that certificate, meaning it's strongly mapped. So, what we need to do there is in the future, it is supported. And going back to what I said about 2016 earlier, one of the things that Microsoft has done, and they're only going back to 2019 on our domain controllers, is uh, you can insert the SAN, or basically there's a URL, URI in the SAN that will map the identity to that certificate manually. Uh, but it's not supported prior to 2019. So if you still have domain controllers that are on 2016, that doesn't work. From what Microsoft has said, they're only going back to 2019. Um, but those are the events I would be looking for outside of that. I have not seen much. The only other one I've seen um, uh, is a certificate with both server auth and client auth being issued to um, a server being used for database, where we are doing an impersonation where the database is then making a call with its identity. That is considered a true authentication. And if that's not mapped to that machine ID, you'll see those errors, but that's not been nearly as common.
I think we have time for about two more questions here. And so the next question that I have for you is, what is the recommendation with the migration to 2025? Migrate DV and CA, or do side by side and migrate to new templates gradually?
Um, that's another great question. So, what I like to do is um, when let's just say I was working in an organization. Um, I like to go through the templates, and then I like to make sure that the templates are right. So um, if you've ever moved into a new house, you don't love bringing your old furniture with you, whatever. So um, same thing when we do our migration. If I'm migrating my 2016 servers or whatever, if you're still on 2012 R2, we go all the way to 2025. Um, do that migration. Um, Microsoft has kind of flipped over the years. I get this question quite a lot also. Do they still support in-place upgrades? Yes, they support it. They no longer recommend it. Used to be the other way around. They recommended it, and I guess they supported it, but they used to recommend. They don't recommend it anymore. Um, but it's a lot cleaner to do that migration from the old OS to the new OS, and then uh, and then clean those templates before you start reissuing them. Remember, we can always rename our templates. The display name has no impact on already issued certificates out there. It's the underlying OID that really binds everything. So we can rename the display name and give them a prefix to know we've touched these and these are good. So that's what I usually like to do with our clients when we're doing those migrations.
All right. How long before RSA based certifications are no longer secure?
I think that's kind of in flux. Uh, I don't think we have a hard and fast date. I think NIST is saying, um, what was it, 2030, where we're saying we're pretty sure it's like SHA-256 and RSA. So anyway, I don't think we have firm numbers yet. We just had a really long conversation about this the other day. Mark and I were talking to some of our clients, and um, we just don't know. But what we are looking at right now, and a far bigger topic, and maybe it can be one for another one of our webinars around post quantum, is um, not waiting for that absolute date, because right now we feel that the lack of the absolute date is probably allowing people to kind of be like, you know, it's not coming. Um, so regardless of what that date is for RSA, and set your date, whether it's 5 years, whether it's 10 years, and it could honestly take that long for some large organizations to move. Set your date and work to that, um, and you'll be thankful you did, rather than waiting for NIST or anyone else to come out and give an official date and then scrambling to meet that. So that's been our take, and I know it's not super straightforward, but right now this is kind of not a super straightforward thing in our field.
All right. And then two questions were similar, and it leads into, the competition we've had between publishing information externally. And so I'm gonna read these out. Mark previously communicated that he secured the rights to publish an updated revision to Brian Comar's book 2008 PKI. Jake, are you going to be assisting Mark and providing your experience? And when will this be updated?
So we have discussed this. It's been talked about. Um, I, I don't think there's been a definitive date. If that starts moving, then I'm sure I would be taking part of that. Um, uh, Oddly enough, I it's something that we've also discussed, um, which that we kind of consider that the source, right? To look at. It's a great resource. Um, I also think that there's not enough information out there or publishings on um, more generalized operational tasks, things like that. So um, I would love to see us do something with the Komar type books, but I would also love to see us do something that was a little more geared toward um, a lot of the people out there running the PKIs now. Um, when I hit the ground at a client, there's certain things I always look at, and it's never fails. I'd love to put something out there at some point like that. Um, so don't have a straight answer on that one. Um, and then the other one I would love to see. Uh, I think so far I've not really told Mark that, so I, I don't know how well that would go or not.
Okay, and so with that, somewhat in a similar vein here as we move through this, around education and getting out in front of the community is we have done our training updates. So Jake and his team has worked incredibly hard to update our trainings, the Microsoft PKI in-depth and the Microsoft ADCS advanced. And now these are on the Microsoft Server 2025. And so Jake, I'm actually going to kick it off to you since this was your like sweat, tears, and hard work to talk about the training updates and really what this looks like.
Thanks. I think so. I this was a collaboration with Vadim. Vadim worked really hard with me on it. Um, but we have done uh, all of a renewal of all of the labs for the in-depth and advanced course. Everything is now on Server 2025, and then moving, um, some of the topics that weren't as timely any longer. So um, in, in the uh, in the advanced course, we have a lab now that is migrating a 2016 base PKI to Server 2025. So I'm trying, to stay in more lockstep with what we're seeing in the environment. So um, we've tried to do a lot of additional integration with kind of some feedback we've gotten from the past. Anyone who's taken our training, in that we have lab guides built into the lab, the sessions, makes it a lot easier for copy and paste. Anyone who's ever made the mistake, whether in my labs or somewhere else, of trying to copy a uh, command from a PDF and how it just randomly decides to drop certain things, which stinks. So we've gone to great lengths to try to remove that challenge from our students. So I'm really excited about the new labs, um, and basically what it will provide for students now that's a lot more current.
Perfect. And so with that, we are going to be having a back to school promotion going on for our training. What's really cool about this is not only do you get the same items and offers that were in previously, but as Jake mentioned, we've really relaunched this idea. And so through this, the offering is a dedicated, email subscription where students can submit questions and Jake can answer them in a really fast, timely manner with you guys. Dedicated drop-in call, kind of like office hours with Jake. Where the format can be like an ask me anything, updated information on trainings, really making sure that the announcements of what's happening in the PKI industry are being communicated to the individuals that love PKI. And as Jake's mentioned, that this is a really great time to be in PKI and see all the changes that are coming down. And then what's also interesting about this is if you do our annual subscription model, not only does it rotate users and seats as you kind of need it to move through your team, but you also would get access to an exclusive module that Jake is going to be creating that's really based around continued education on what's happening currently in the industry. So it's going to be really nice as it's going to offer continuous education to everybody that's on that subscription there. So we do have a promotion going for this. You can scan the QR code on the screen right now, and then we also, I want to say, have a link on our website and a handout in our resources to get access to this. It's very interesting. It's only going on for 3 weeks, and it's for our virtual demand classes there. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to hello@PKI Solutions, and we can get back to you guys quickly. And with that, we'll close this out here. Jake, I'll let you take the summary.
All right, thank you. So, we touched on the server 2016. Starting to lay our plans to get that migrated off of that OS. The strong cert mapping that's happening early in September, so it's coming up here pretty quick. All the changes with ADCS and whether it's Microsoft's renewed interest in putting time into the product, as well as the products we rely on, the HSMs and all the things like that, as well as the cab forum and all that. And then the final thing with the training that Alex mentioned is the training has been kind of a passion project of mine for a while. I haven't been always able to spend as much time on it as I would like to, but I'm finding ways to do it now. So the thing with our training, I always like to tell our students is it's not just the training, it's how it applies to your environment. So that's what we're out here for, and what will be available for in that question and answer sessions.
Wonderful. With that, we just wanted to say thank you for our PKI team members. You guys have put a lot of work also into getting that training going, especially
Very
Jake
much.
and Adams and our marketing team. So thank you all for that. And then thank you guys all for attending this webinar. We'll see you guys in September.
Thank you all.
Thank you.